All right, welcome to Senate Transportation. We will open the hearing on our first bill, House Bill 1341, relative to the definition of conviction in motor vehicle laws. And the prime sponsor, Representative Walsh. I can't get there fast enough. Oh, thank you.
I'll try now. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senators. My name is Tom Walsh. I'm a representative from Merrimack County District 24, which is the town of Hooksett, and I'm here to introduce House Bill 1341 relative to the definition of conviction in motor vehicle laws. I did introduce this bill as a request of the Department of Safety, so I will go over it briefly, and then, as always, when I do these courtesy introductions, waive questions to the professionals that are in the room behind me. But it is actually pretty simple. It's broken into two parts. Amending RSA 259, the goal is to just encompass everything into, for everybody, not just commercial drivers. So as you can see, for the purposes of RSA 264, that is stricken. That language is actually in the second part of that paragraph of 259. And to make it cover everybody, commercial driving license statutes were stricken also. So that's pretty much all it does. I'll call it a housekeeping bill. It just keeps everybody on the same playing field. So,
All right.
unless you have anything specific for me, I know the department's here. They can probably get into the weeds better than I.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Representative.
Thank you very much.
Brittany Shute. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Senators. My name is Brittany Shute. I am the Bureau Administrator, Financial Responsibility Bureau. I'm here on behalf of the Department of Safety in favor of this bill. As Representative Walsh indicated, this is further clarifying conviction for all persons, not just the motor vehicle statutes. And as he indicated, the information that is struck between lines 3 and 4 is repeated in the lower section. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? No? No questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is there anyone here that concludes our testimony? Is there anyone here that would like to testify but have not had the opportunity? With that, we have Gregory Hildreth, New Hampshire State Police. It doesn't have you speaking or in favor or opposed, so you're neutral on this?
You're just present for it. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will end the hearing on House Bill 1341. Do we want to go? Oh, we can't go into it. Okay. Well, we're missing Carl. Yeah. And we are in recess till 1:15. Go for it. I'm getting good at this. All right, Senate Transportation, we will start the hearing on House Bill 1534, authorizing the use of side exhaust for antique vehicles. And we welcome the prime sponsor, Representative Walsh. Welcome. Again.
Thank you again. And again, for the record, I'm Representative Tom Walsh, Merrimack County 24 representative, and I'm here to introduce House Bill 1534. Hopefully this is the easiest bill that you have for the year, as it was for us, authorizing the use of side exhausts for antique vehicles. Now, I know none of you are old enough to remember the 60s and 70s, but it was a very popular thing back then. A lot of cars actually came from the factory with them, Corvettes, Cobras. But then even beyond that, people were running them on their vans and pickups through the 70s. And some of it's style, but there is a function to it also. There's a lot of G bodies and A bodies that when they want to run dual exhaust, you can't do it behind the rear wheels. There's just no place. You've got tubs for the spare tires, you've got gas tanks. So a lot of people started putting them before the front tires. I have to tell you, I used to do it myself. Currently, it's not legal, except if you have a street rod. So I had asked OLS to just basically use the street rod statute and apply it to antique vehicles. The Department of Safety requested that I include an amendment for 4 doors. I don't think many people are going to do this with 4 doors, but I did change it so that the discharge point, if you look, it basically changes to the rear of the rear edge of a door, or rear door if it's a 4-door. That was the only concern with it. Again, this is not just for style, but for function. And it's one of those things that people who restore their old vehicles really appreciate. And there's nothing better than separating 8 cylinders, 4 each side. It really does sound good. So I hope you can support this.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a would you believe, Representative. Would you believe that someday the only vehicles that will have exhaust will be antique vehicles?
That's true.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is, Representative Walsh was the only one to speak on this bill. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on it that has not been given the opportunity? And we will check
You want to exec these two?
as soon as she checks to see if there's any additional speakers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were done.
Director, did you want to speak? Okay. All right. Then I will close the hearing on House Bill 1534.
Move exec.
Second.
So,
All those in favor of exec say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So Tom, 1341 is housekeeping. Yeah. It's just repeated there, and then on this one that we just heard. So 1341 is housekeeping, and on this one, similarly, it's, as you probably heard the tail end of it, the tailpipe end of it. So,
Do I hear a motion of ought to pass on 1341?
Ought to pass. Second it.
Okay. Ought to pass by Senator Ward, seconded by Senator Ricciardi. Any discussion? All those in favor of ought to pass say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Senator Sherman moves consent.
Second.
Senator Waters seconds. All those in favor of consent say aye.
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 Opposed? Senator Waters, you want to take this one out?
Oh, I'd be delighted.
Senator Waters.
Hey, I mean, a Democrat could let people off the hook for breaking the law, right? So thank you for thinking of me.
Anytime.
And I'll move on to pass on 1534.
Hold on a minute.
All right.
All right, Senator Waters moves ought to pass on 1534.
Second.
Senator Ward seconds. Sure.
There we go. So I was just, the long and short of this is that this just allows They weren't allowed to do this in the past, or?
Well, technically, they might not be. These are for cars made in the 60s and 70s that are configured this way. And so it just ensures that they can do what, that the cars can, their antique vehicles can be used the way that they were designed to. And if they
Fine.
can't do that and have to
Well
go out
beyond
the
your
rear.
birthday, Senator.
Yeah.
All right, where are we?
Vote to pass.
I thought,
Yes,
I'll be
Senator
happy to.
Ward.
oh, that's right, I'm sorry, Senator Ward did. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Consent?
Senator Sherman moves consent, I'll second. All those in favor of consent, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Can I take it out? I'm a tailpipe guy.
Senator Sherman will be taking that out.
You're so bad. So bad.
Oh, my,
That was cute. That was really cute.
Keep
That's
it to
me.
yourself.
You can write the blurb, right?
Move we come out of exec.
Second.
all those in favor of coming out of exec, say aye.
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 All right.
And turn
Opposed?
off his microphone.
You're so witty today.
We will be in recess until 1:30. Senate Transportation is back in session, and we will open the hearing on House Bill 1188 and welcome the prime sponsor, Representative Suzanne Smith. Welcome.
Push the button. Okay, there we go. Yes, for the record, it's really nice to see all of you again, and thank you for listening to this bill. For the record, I'm Suzanne Smith. I represent the towns of Plymouth, Hebron, and Holderness, Grafton County, District 8, and I serve on the Resources Committee. So this bill is forming a 5-year-long study commission to review the statutes we now have in place for OHRVs and recommend future legislation. Now, the first bill related to OHRVs was introduced in New Hampshire in 1989, and since then, 57 bills related to OHRVs have been signed into law. Since the first bill was introduced, ATVs, as they were known then, consisted mostly of 3 wheels, one person riding on it and getting around on back hills and areas. And there were no passengers. And now we have side-by-sides, UHVs, gators, and even dirt bikes are now fall under the OHRV, off-highway recreational vehicle umbrella. So sales and use have expanded exponentially, and Fish and Game reports many accidents, and most of these are due to inexperience of the riders. And this is, I was going to give this and then you can pass it around or share it. It's reports from September of 2021 of crashes. There were a couple of deaths. There were people who had to be helicoptered on the DART helicopter because of the injuries sustained by people. And they report that it was either inexperience, speeding, reckless driving caused them. So as a legislator, it sometimes feels we are plugging holes in the dike. We fix one issue, we change a definition, and within a year, a new issue pops up. In my time on the Resources Committee, we have had many OHRV bills, and we have heard from law enforcement about the issues that I just talked about, and we have heard from abutters whose property abuts trails, people whose property abuts trails and roads used by OHRV, and they complain mightily about noise, dust, and the disrespect of some riders. So in August 2021, a group of stakeholders got together, and that group consisted of legislators, Executive Counselor Joe Kenny, members of law enforcement, New Hampshire Bureau of Trails, DOT, and the president of the New Hampshire OHRV Association. We brainstormed about ongoing concerns, and Executive Counselor Kenny brought up the idea of forming a long-term study commission to try to just really dig deep into these issues. And that is, this bill came out of that discussion. And what will the bill do? And basically, if you look at the bill on page 2, lines 13 down, the commission will study OHRV statutes that we have, and they're in a few different places. They're in transportation, they're in parks and recreation, they're in, they're just scattered all around. And so that's important to review those, get those all organized. And then another big issue is how Fish and Game, state police, county sheriffs, and municipal police work all together to try to enforce the laws that we already have in place. The committee will also study positive and negative effects of OHRVs on state and town roads, including Class 5 and Class 6 roads, and the effects of noise, dust, careless or reckless behavior of riders on abutters to trails and roads where OHRVs are used. Also, education and safety requirements for OHRV riders. We actually had a bill in Resources this year, which we interim study, and we are thinking that information could be put into this, can be studied by the commission. Also, the positive and negative effects of OHRV activity on the state's economy. I think 3 years ago, we passed a law that there would be these in-depth studies, an update of the master plan. There were 3 large studies which would really have taken us in a great direction, but unfortunately there was no funding. It was one of those, if there's extra money in the treasury. And so those studies were never done. So I'm hoping the commission can work on some of that. And then also there has been discussion about putting governors on OHRVs so that the speed limits are able to be better enforced, and that would be on rental OHRVs, because that's where a lot of the inexperienced drivers are from. They come up for the weekend, they rent an OHRV, and they go out on the trails and go wild. So the members, there are 18 members listed on this committee. It started out a little bit smaller, and new people kept saying, gee, we really need to be on it. I tried to make it when I put it together, and with input from stakeholders and with members of the committee, to try to have it be balanced so that all parties or all groups were represented. So we have the law enforcement, both in municipal police, state police, fish and game. We have the OHRV industry. We have the New Hampshire auto dealers, which are the ones who sell all the OHRVs in the state. And we have the New Hampshire OHRV Association. We have people who are interested in conservation and the environment. We have we have a member who would represent the landowners appointed by the TOA and Farm Bureau. So it seems like a good mix of people, and I hesitated to add any more because, the larger a commission is, the more challenging it is to get people to meetings and get anything done. So, but that's, in a nutshell, that's the bill, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, Senator Sherman?
Just a quick one. In line 24, page 2, does that limit, it says positive and adverse effects of OHRV activity on the state's economy. Does that limit it just to the state, or, and I don't really, do we need an amendment if we wanted to expand that to state and local economy? Because I'm thinking of a place like Gorham where there really seems to be a big benefit, but there's also significant pushback. And would it make sense to have it not just be the statewide economy, or do you think this is broad enough that it could incorporate local and regional economies as well?
I would like to think it is broad enough to cover it. And also, if you look at line 27, all other issues related to OHRVs which come before, I tried to get that in there because I knew things were going to come up that were not in the bill.
Okay, I think you're right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ruth.
Senator Ward?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for taking my question. You had mentioned that earlier studies had not taken place because of lack of funding. How much funding do you anticipate you need?
For this commission, do you mean?
Yeah.
I don't expect there to be money from this commission. I would expect that there may be legislation that the commission recommends be introduced that might cost money. And the studies that have been in limbo now for 2 years, I'm still trying to get a little bit of information back on where we can get funding for that.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Waters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know you've got the line 27 there, but how would you have any difficulties with adding a duty to study the need for electric vehicle charging infrastructure at trailheads?
I don't see a problem with it. I know that there are electric OHRVs available, but I have not heard of very many people using them. And when I spoke to one of the retail agents, now this we're going back 3 years, he said that people like the noise.
Well, I mean, go online, take a look at the new Polaris.
Excuse me?
Go online, take a look at the new Polaris. They're going to
Yeah,
sell
I mean,
out, and
I have
think
heard they're
this is-
more power, way more powerful than the gas-fired ones.
I just think this will be good for
No,
the,
I think that would be
for
a
the
great
riders,
thing
but
to-
also for the NHADA. So
That would be
I think
fine.
having it explicitly
I'm
there
sure
would be good.
NHADA is here, and I'm sure that they'll
Yeah.
help you
All
with
right,
that
thank
one.
you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Timothy Egan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senators, for hearing me. I'm Timothy Egan, Grafton District 2 House of Representatives, serving Franconia, Lisbon, Lyman, Monroe, and Sugar Hill. I'm in my second term on Fish and Game and Marine Resources Committee and my first term on Resources, Recreation, and Development. Yes, I've committed my life to the North Country, as you can hear. I'll be quick. I'm here to very much support this bill, House Bill 1188, because establishing a commission to study OHRV use, in my opinion, is paramount to respecting our landowners, protecting our riders, and promoting our tourism economy in a logical manner. One example of why this commission is needed: earlier, at the recommendation of the House session, I purposely, intentionally tabled my bill, House Bill 1498, which was relative to establishing a safety training program for OHRVs and snowmobiles, and for the Committee of Resources, Recreation, and Development. We were all in agreement, it was a 21-0 vote, to interim study this bill because we feel that it's important that safety for riders and the impact in the industry needs to be refined, and the bill's execution of a safety program and its activations would be better done under a commission that could utilize all the stakeholders that come to the table that the previous representative mentioned. The Fish and Game Department touches a lot of New Hampshire residents and visitors who are outdoor enthusiasts with motorized vehicles who enjoy all 4 of our seasons, and the ability to have riders be better prepared when riding on new trails or riding in new territories is essential to helping Fish and Game manage their ridership. A safety program, which would be under one of the aspects of this commission, education and safety, I think it's item number 3, would go a long way in serving this community, increasing safety and education for riders. Some of the folks that were supportive of safety training bill were the Law Enforcement Division of Fish and Game, the New Hampshire OHRV Association, New Hampshire Snowmobile Association, New Hampshire Auto Dealers. We feel all those folks, along with the Fish and Game Director, would be able to utilize a commission that is outlined in House Bill 1188 to hold a series of meetings with the community, with the industry, to better determine what is needed for further legislation. And with your support of this bill, a commission to study OHRVs can help address safety issues that could be better dealt with, along with other pending legislation, and receive further agency and industry input to better serve our constituents. So thank you for your time. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Abby Evankow? Welcome.
Hi, my name is Abby Ivanko. I live in Gorham, a mile from the OHRV trail that's misplaced in a residentially zoned neighborhood. I want to very much thank Representative Smith for filing this bill and everyone who's worked on it. It's vital that all of our state officials understand the very negative impacts of misplaced off-road vehicle trails with their accompanying noise, dust, and fumes, and the effects this is having on tax-paying residents. It's important to have all the stakeholders at this table, and right now there is no seat for abutting property owners, for abutting year-round homeowners. And I ask that the North Country Council seat be specified to be an abutting year-round homeowner, because right now that voice is missing from this committee. You cannot expect to fix a problem by bringing the same groups together that created it. There are 3 seats given to the OHRV lobby. That's out of line with how New Hampshire residents and visitors use our trails. It's like inviting the fox to guard the hen house. From the New Hampshire Business Review, 350,000 New Hampshire residents hike and walk, 240,000 bicycle, 225,000 paddle, over 140,000 fish, over 50,000 hunt, and that's compared to an average yearly OHRV registrations of 36,000. So they make a lot of noise, they're hard to miss, but yet they're still the smallest trail user. And so this committee, by giving 3 of the 18 seats to the OHRV lobby, makes this commission out of balance. The statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan lists the most popular recreational activities in New Hampshire, and it's running. fishing, cycling, hiking, and camping. And again, OHRVs aren't in the top 5. The SCORP also notes that more New Hampshire residents enjoy day hiking than the national average. Please take note of the 2003 statewide ATV trail plan. Quote, "The primary goal for the Bureau of Trails will be to align the user expectations with state land management goals rather than the other way around. Trail and resource specialists should first explain the regulatory framework in which decisions are made and then solicit input from wheeled OHRV users. This is extremely important when stressing the governing agency's mandates to protect public resources. The Bureau of Trails and NOVA can more than adequately represent riders. The inclusion of the ADA is unfairly tilts the commission away from the full diversity of how New Hampshire residents and visitors alike enjoy our trails." Thank you for your time and consideration.
Any questions from the committee? I do have a question. Looking at the bill amended by the House, there is one member representative landowners appointed jointly by the New Hampshire Timberland Owners Association and New Hampshire Farm Bureau. And then on 14, there's 2 members of the public, one of whom shall be appointed by the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission and one whom shall be appointed by the North Country Council. Couldn't those 3 be equated to made sure that they were abutters?
If it's specified, yes, but right now you can be a member of the Timberland Association and not live on the Class 6 road that's been turned into a trail. So those can be remote. Like you need someone who lives there day after day. And that's why I'm asking for that clarification. I think the Timberland Association and the Farmer Association, it's different than a homeowner living in a residential neighborhood. And they're important stakeholders because I've heard from farmers whose fields are being dusted. And so then the hay that's being dusted can't be sold to horses. It's not good enough grade. It has to be sold to cattle. Another farmer, he's having trouble operating his machinery down the road because ATVs are on it. And this is how he's making his livelihood. So those are important people to be on this commission, but they're not a residential homeowner.
Senator Sherman.
I remember, I think it was last week, we heard about the timber industry being concerned about the use of the roads and how they get deeply rutted and those kind of things. So who would be the best to pick an abutter? You had mentioned in your testimony, you'd mentioned, so is there one group that would be able to identify somebody?
Well, I appreciate that you don't want this commission any bigger than it already is. And so that's why I looked at the North Country Council. And I actually reached out to the director yesterday, and I didn't get a definitive answer. But it seems to me that they would be poised to pick an abutting residential homeowner. And perhaps the Conservation Commission, they might also, maybe they have an abutter who's associated with the Conservation Commissions. I'm not certain of that. But I don't know the line of the North Country Council, but they're on here.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Rich Parsons?
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Richard Parsons. I work at Rather and Pignatelli. We represent the New Hampshire Off-Highway Vehicle Association. We are supportive of this commission. We will point out we do only have one member. I think the auto dealers were mentioned as being an OHRV group, but I can tell you that while I love Dan and we get along very well with ADA, we also have a lot of disagreements at times. So it's, I think, really, there's only one real representative of New Hampshire off-highway vehicle groups. We would like to thank Representative Smith for introducing this bill and working with NOVA and other stakeholders on that meeting last year, and also over the summer on Resources and Rec, and Chairman Renzullo as well. We think this is the appropriate approach. There was another study commission last year that looked at off-highway vehicle use, House Bill 1182, but it looked at all kinds of other issues, golf carts, other stuff like that, and it was not nearly enough time to consider all these issues. So we think a 5-year commission is the best approach to be able to continue to look at this. Senator, on your the electric vehicle charging stations, I think adding that as a scope would be acceptable. I think there's many in the industry that see that as the future, and it could be a way to help mitigate landowner concerns, which make up a vast majority of the trails in the future. So I think adding that as part of the scope would be appropriate. The one thing that I was asked to point out too is that obviously the membership has come up, and there's currently 18 members, and sometimes it's difficult to get stuff done with an even number. So perhaps make it an odd number, and I think we'd be happy to discuss with the committee potential options on that. And I think you've heard a couple today as well. With that, we ask that you pass the bill. The study commission, we think this is a very important commission.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? See none?
Thank you.
Matt Leahy?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Matt Leahy. I'm the Policy Director for the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. I'm handing out written testimony. I'm not going to read that, but I would just say we do support this legislation, and really for the basic reason that we view it as a very good forum for all the different interests who are, have different issues or concerns with the OHRV sector in our state, and to take a really comprehensive, long-term look into all the different issues that are going on, the benefits and drawbacks, we think would be very helpful. So we support it, and we thank you for your support for it as well. I'll take any questions though.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all I have for spoken testimony. Is anyone here that would like to speak on 1188 but has not had the opportunity? With that, I will close the hearing on 1188. And we'll give you time to gear up.
Yeah.
will start the hearing on House Bill 1474 relative to annual vehicle inspections. And the prime sponsor, come on down, Representative Stephen Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. I am Representative Stephen Smith, Sullivan County 11, Ackworth, Charlestown, Goshen, Langdon, Leominster, and Washington. This bill comes to you on an 18-to-1 vote from the House Transportation Committee and then the House consent calendar. We get inspection repeal bills every term, and I've been on the House Transportation Committee now disturbingly for 10 years. I just realized that the other day. And yeah, and they're frequent flyers, so we've heard a lot about this. And one of the compelling arguments has always been that the cars need to be seen once a year. And we see mechanical evidence of that, parts that wore out horribly that were discovered, agree with that. And that will continue under this bill, but they only need to be seen once a year. This bill attempts to give people control over when that financial event occurs and make sure that they're still seen once a year. So in a nutshell, if the sticker's good, the sticker's good. If your birthday is in November and you don't have a nice new vehicle and you're concerned about, well, I'm gonna have to pay $150 to register the thing and then who knows what repairs it's gonna need, and you're worried about what it's gonna do to Christmas, you can instead, the following year, you get the car inspected in June, and then your inspection's always in June. You give folks some control over that. If you're like me, do your own work, but don't have a garage, I don't like to lay on my back in January on ice fixing my cars. So perhaps I would like to do that, I don't know, May, when the weather's nice and I have my tax refund. So that's really all the bill does. If folks like the way it's happening now, keep your registration tied to your birth date, and then you get your inspection at the same time, they can do that. Nothing different will happen unless someone chooses to inspect their car early to change that yearly cycle. And that's really all the bill does. Happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Waters.
Thank you, Representative. So is your sense this is a one-off, meaning let's say you decide it's June, and then so your sticker goes to next June. Could next June you just kind of decide to take a few months off as well and do it again?
Oh, yeah, you could do it whenever you want, as long as it's not longer than a year. If June's not working out for you and May is a better idea, then short cycle it next time. The car owner has control over that. What they can never do is get it for longer than 12 months, though.
All right, thanks for your answer.
Did you have a question? Senator Sherman?
I was just trying to get the November, you were saying a situation, when you first buy the car, though, you still have to have it inspected on purchase, correct?
Not if it was already inspected and the sticker's still valid.
Okay, got it.
And in which case the car would still be the same year.
So
And
the
if you,
sticker transfers with the car?
yes.
Got it.
And if you don't like the month on that, then you're free to get it inspected early and change it.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Director Marasco. Thank you, Representative, for cleaning our mic. Good afternoon.
My name is John Marasco. I'm the director of the Division of Motor Vehicles. I've been in the position for a long month. And, thank you. I'd like to say that we had the opportunity to meet with Representative Smith yesterday. He was gracious and gave us quite a bit of time to talk about this bill. Prior to coming into the position, I was not aware of this bill. So over the last few weeks, different points have been brought to my attention, and we talked about that with Representative Smith yesterday. My purpose here today is just to offer what some of those points are and offer informational testimony. Certainly the intentions of the bill to provide for more flexibility for citizens to get their cars inspected, and to also look at the financial aspect of tethering the registration to the inspection. Those are great conversations to have. Everybody agrees, in the room yesterday, and that the need to have a state inspection is important to make sure that the car is safe to be on the road. So we all agree there. So things to consider would be, you'll hear from law enforcement as far as if we have a scenario where the registration color on the plate is not the same as the inspection because it's gone into the following year. The other issue that you run into is, that's been brought to my attention, are people that forget. So right now, when you tether the registration to the inspection, you hope that you have a higher likelihood that people will know that you have to do both. But to Representative Smith's point, there's the financial hardship there. And so one of the things that we spoke about was, would there be a potential, if it went to a study committee, or if there were further conversations about, could you move that to 30 days? So could you have the registration still tethered to the inspection, but do that in such a way that for those that might need repairs, there's financial hardship, we give a little bit more than the 10-day window. So that's one of the areas that we discussed too. And I think for us, that's really about it. It would just be the confusion issue, and maybe talking about bumping out the amount of time that you have to get it inspected. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the committee?
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
We're seeing you, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yes. Yeah. I'm looking forward. Every Tuesday on the calendar is blocked off to be here, so I look forward to working with you. And
You
I'm
only
just
have a week or two left.
All right. At least for the next few then. But thank you so much.
Yep,
Have a great day.
Thank you. Jeff Oberink?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jeff Oberdank, and I'm here to represent the division again with a little bit further testimony. And one of the things that we like to do when we get a number of bills before us is to be able to project or go backwards and say, well, how would this law have affected us last year? If this were in play last year, what would the numbers look like? And I think this is a great opportunity for us to share a little bit of research that we did. If this law were in effect in 2021, how many people would have been affected by possibly having to inspect twice in a year? So through our inspection system, we pulled the numbers, and a couple of things were really interesting to us were there were 15,038 instances where a vehicle was inspected twice in the same calendar year. And we broke that out by looking at, because the vehicle owner information isn't in there, but the month that was inspected was in there. So if it was inspected twice in a year where the months would have been different, that's where we came up with that number. So potentially being that would have been where the vehicle ownership had changed hands. So that would be the instance where somebody would have to have inspected the car twice. Again, that number is 15,038 based on 2021 numbers. And that's about 1% of the vehicle inspections that took place in 2021. So roughly 99% of the time, that wasn't an issue. But there is a 1% issue for those that do see that financial hardship. And again, not to repeat what Director Marasco had said, it was a very fruitful meeting yesterday. I think we got a number of things out there on the table. We just wanted to make sure you had the numbers before you voted on this, on what the impact would have been last year. And having said that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions from Senator Waters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. Does this potentially create any revenue issues?
In what way?
Well, in terms of if there is a gap for a few months in which, I mean, guess what by changing this, then you don't have exactly the same revenue flow. So it gets made up eventually because it's a year, but.
Exactly. We don't think the number of vehicles being inspected is going to change. The number of times a vehicle inspected would be. But say towards the end of the year, you may be a handful short, but you're going to make it up the first of the next year. And I really think it's a sliding scale. I don't think there's any major impact to this, nor was there an impact to our Gordon Darby contract either, and we looked at that as well.
Just to follow up too, I was a little unclear because of the previous testimony. When the vehicle transfers ownership, does that be a reinspection?
Currently, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's different from what we heard. Yeah, thank you.
Senator Sherman.
Just to clarify then, you'd basically be, if you have somewhere around 1,500,
15,000.
15,000?
15,038 instances where cars were inspected twice in 2021.
So that means you'd lose half of that, because if you were taking away the number of vehicles that were transferring ownership, how much does it cost to, what's the registration fee?
So the registration fee is based on the weight for the state portion, and it's based on the vehicle value for the town portion. And we don't think there's any impact to the registration portion. I think what the bill intends to do is that if I buy a used car that's got an inspection sticker on it that still has a handful of months, that I don't have to inspect it for me.
Right.
It becomes an inspection sticker for the car, not the person who owns the car, which it currently is now, as it's tied to the birth month and the registration. But to your point, I think we're having these conversations because it is confusing. And we are trying to figure out what our charter is here is to try to forecast what are the downstream effects of this. And I think that's where we're still a little confused on that.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Gregory Hildreth? Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Trooper First Class Gregory Hildreth. I'm here representing the Department of Safety, specifically at the Division of State Police. My name for the record last is spelled Hildreth. So the Department of Safety takes no position on this bill. We did just want to offer some educational testimony specific to this bill, as there are some concerns just with how it's written right now. Primarily, the purpose of registration stickers and inspection stickers and the color coding was to make those match up. Obviously, at a distance, the easiest thing to detect is your color. If you can see red and red, you know that vehicle's coming, that it's married up there, and that there's no discrepancy. One of the things in law enforcement the eye is trained to notice is if you have a variation between a registration sticker and an inspection sticker. If you can see that and you're out on that kind of patrol, you're going to look a little closer. And unfortunately, due to these new inspection stickers, they're not as easy to read as the old ones, but they're safer security-wise. But it's not always easy to catch that. But one thing that you can generally assure is if you know the color and the year, and like this year right now, 2023, we're looking at green colors. If I see green and green coming at me, I know that all that stuff is accurate, up to date. So when you now change that up, and you now have a red inspection sticker and a green registration sticker, it definitely increases the likelihood that a police officer may end up conducting a traffic stop on that vehicle. And this is going to cause more contact with law enforcement. Now, granted, it could easily end up as, hey, I looked at your inspection sticker, okay, you chose that month, that's why it hasn't changed yet, but now you're good to go. But in the course of that, I might see that they have, drug paraphernalia, something going on, and that extends the scope of the stop. And that could then create that situation. Allowing basically this type of law to go forward when it comes to the actual inspection, certified mechanics may actually have an issue actually trying to determine what the proper month they should be putting on these vehicles are. Right now you can inspect currently out 4 months in advance. So if I live or if I'm born in January, I could actually theoretically go and take my vehicle in for an inspection in September and go for a 16-month window. As such, again, mechanics could have an issue with knowing exactly what do I sticker this. Am I going for the year of birth or am I going for whatever the owner chose? So that could then cause a customer to get the wrong sticker, leave, come back, realize that they have the wrong sticker on the vehicle and come back and be like, that's not what I wanted, and opening up that can. Another issue we have that was just kind of thrown out there while they were discussing this bill is the consumer protection aspect of it. Right now, the proposed legislation would allow for a newly purchased vehicle to go 11 months before requiring an inspection. Now, generally, most car dealerships, this isn't the major concern, but this might come down to your Craigslist purchase where someone ends up buying a car, selling it before the need for a new inspection, and this vehicle just keeps getting bought and sold within that inspection year until it eventually ends up with someone who has no choice, but now it needs to inspect it because it's expired. Nobody knowing the full condition of this vehicle or what's happened to it during each transfer of ownership, because they never required to get the vehicle inspected once they took ownership of it. They were allowed to basically grace period that vehicle, and who knows if they took something off the vehicle, or the owner just assumed, I see an inspection sticker, it's all set. So there's a concern there that there might be something unsafe about the vehicle that's not known to the owner because they currently see a valid inspection sticker. Safety concerns kind of marry in with that Consumer Protection Act. It's safer for the citizens on the road if they know that the vehicle driven has been inspected versus, hey, I'm the owner of the vehicle, I know the vehicle I'm driving safe for the road. So it's safer for everybody. And then you got the issue with just unfair application of the law, where current proposed legislation would allow new vehicle owners potentially months before needing an inspection, potentially up to 11 months, maybe even almost 12. And then you have another side of it where the inspection sticker on the vehicle expires this month that they buy the vehicle, now they're required to get the inspection. So you're giving a green light for one customer to go a significant time frame without having a vehicle inspected, while another one is required to do it. Reason the state is remaining neutral on this is because there is some merit to the idea behind the bill. Obviously, everybody knows your birth month can be kind of expensive. So the state has opened to further discussion with the author of this bill, supporting with Director Marasco. One of those comments right now is potentially considering an extension to the grace period of the current 10-day window. After I get my vehicle registered, I have 10 days to get it inspected. There may be an extension to that beyond the 10-day, but within a reasonable distance. And based on that, that's all I have to offer for testimony, and I'm open for questions.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Dan, thank you. Dan Bennett. Welcome.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Dan Bennett with New Hampshire Auto Dealers Association. As you know, we're a trade association for the motor vehicle industry. Specifically today, I'm here on behalf of our franchised and independent used and new car dealers, as well as our inspection stations, some of whom are associated with those dealers, but also our standalone agents. So what I would say on this particular bill is that we do believe that it's worthy of further review. We'd welcome those discussions with the sponsor. We did have long discussions. We were involved with them in the Department of Safety and DMV yesterday as well. However, there are some problems in the proposed piece of legislation that we'd like to point out. So we do understand the rationale that the bill sponsor has, the concerns that some citizens may need to separate their inspection from their registration due to the cost burden potentially to repair a problematic or expensive safety item. So we don't, in our world, we don't hear it on an everyday basis. It's not a common call that comes in, but we do understand that there's the potential for it. So we would welcome the opportunity to seek a solution, but unfortunately we fear that there's some unintended consequences associated with this particular bill. And anything that we do come up with should have, paramount in the discussion should be roadway safety and consumer protection. Those are the two most important things that we should focus on. So I'd like to talk to two specific items that are wiped out from the bill. And those two currently are. This bill proposes to eliminate the 16-month inspection option that certain citizens enjoy. It used to be called the Winterbird exemption. It was just for the people who left for the winter months. You had to have it signed off by the DMV. Now that 16-month exemption just applies to any and all. That's on line 5. So the fact that that's stricken is problematic. The 16-month provision is an area where we may be able to find and provide the flexibility that the sponsor is seeking while still maintaining consumer protection on safe vehicles. The financial safety valve that's the desired outcome of this bill currently exists with that 16-month inspection. You currently can separate those two events. You can inspect 120 days, 4 months prior from your registration. So if the concern is having enough finances in that same 1 month period for both inspection, repair, and registration, all three, you do have the ability to separate them. You can do your inspection 3 months prior, and then you would register in your birth month, because there's no change to that under this regulation. So I would say, and then you could stick to that cycle going forward, just always inspecting in May and registering in July. So I believe within the framework of the law, the solution that we're seeking already does exist. So that may be a basis or a good starting point for conversations with the sponsor. And as mentioned multiple times, we would welcome that opportunity. And we did have a great start yesterday. The bill also proposes to eliminate an existing section of law on line 11 regarding sticker expiration and dealership transfer. Dealers rely on this heavily and have used it since 2005 when the law was changed to allow for that sticker to remain live upon transfer back to a dealership. And then just a few things that I mentioned. The proposal could lead to more, as you've heard from the trooper, the proposal could lead to more unsafe vehicles on the road from private sales due to a lack of or a more delayed inspection process. The current system relies for just about 10 days, so there's little no surprises in a private sale. Now, if that private sale, that vehicle comes off someone's lawn and it's not 6 months till they have the vehicle inspected, there may be a reason that that vehicle was put on the front lawn for $1,800. And it's not till 6 months later that you have the vehicle on a lift and you notice that the frame is almost non-existent. So within that short 10-day window, you then have the ability to go back to wherever that sale occurred and try and seek some remedy, whether it's on your own or through a court system or through state police. By extending that period of time, it could be problematic. And unfortunately, if it does go that time, that difficult, tough conversation is probably going to be with the inspection technician a few months later who had nothing to do with the sale of that vehicle. They're just doing their 13-point safety inspection. And so it could create some conflict for the consumer and the employee or the dealership or the inspection station, which we want to avoid. And then in addition to the confusion to law enforcement, there would also be industry and public confusion. Inspection stations will wind up being the mouthpiece, really, in this, and then potentially getting involved in decisions as for a customer's financial situation and when to inspect and when to register, and those are decisions that they shouldn't be involved in those nuanced kind of discussions. So those are really some of the things that we wanted to point out. Thank you for your time. And as mentioned, we would welcome the opportunity to work with the sponsor, the other concerned members here, as well as the committee to see if there's not something we can do or a different way to look at or tackle the issue.
Senator Sherman.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, sir.
You may not know the answer to this, but do we have, I've never confronted this before, so pardon my ignorance, but do we have a lemon law so that if you buy a car from a person, you have 30 days to, I know we have as is purchase, but is there any kind of protection for the consumer so that that window would make a difference, whether it's 10 days or 30 days or what if, I guess two questions.
Start with one.
Okay. What is the time frame?
I'm going to start taking notes.
Okay. What is the sorry? What is the time frame after the purchase of a vehicle when you have to have it inspected currently? Is it 10 days?
10 days on a private sale.
Okay. Follow up. Thank you. I'm learning. So the second one is, do we have like 30 days after the purchase of a car to seek remedy? Or
yep, I mean, I see where your buyer's remorse, right?
Exactly.
So one, I guess I'll try and hit all the points. Lemon law applies really only until new vehicles direct from the manufacturer, and lemon law that you refer to is strictly between the manufacturer and the customer. So many repairs. There's a faulty design, really engineering issue. As far as the sales go, at the sales at a dealership, regulated under those laws, there's no, I went home, I took it for the weekend, I decided I don't like, a red Corvette. Okay, so it's not like the example we would use would be selling knives or vacuums at your kitchen table. That's handled in a different world. As far as the dealership sales go, there is no kind of buyer's remorse provision. However, with the sale of a vehicle at the dealership, you actually have 20 days to get the vehicle inspected, hence a 20-day license plate, right? The 20-day plate matches those 20 days that you have to get it inspected. So I don't know if that covers all of the questions, other than if there was an issue, say the private sale issue, the individual has the opportunity to use the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office, who handles vehicle sale, or concerns and complaints related to vehicle sales, private sales.
So you may not know the answer to this, but if I bought a car, private sale, 10 days later, within the first 10 days, I had it inspected, and lo and behold, even though the guy said it was great, I'm going to need a whole new transmission. The only recourse right now would be to go to the AG. We don't have anything else. Okay, thanks.
Correct.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, members of the committee.
That is the last person to testify on this bill. Is there anyone who would like representative? Well, come on down.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senators, I hadn't planned on speaking, but I can't let all these people gang up on my deputy speaker. For the record, my name is Tom Welsh. I'm a representative from the town of Hooksett, and currently serving on the Transportation Committee in the House. I've been hearing a lot of questions raised, but I just want to reiterate that this bill is as simple as it gets. It just makes the sticker follow the car. And like any other piece of legislation, if you don't like it, the best way to get it killed is to come up with a bunch of questions that are, in most cases, already happening under the current law. For example, colors may not match. They don't match now. As you heard, there's a 15-month possibility. So for those months, those 3 months, the stickers don't match. That's already occurring. 11 months without a sticker, I heard. I don't know how that's possible with this bill, because unless the dealership puts a sticker on it. If that's the case, absolutely. You don't need to get one for a year. I will also contend that I think without the winter or the winter bird 15-month window, the vehicles will actually be safer, because no vehicle will be on the road over 12 months between inspections. If somebody wants to go to Florida, well, then all they have to do is, in their cycle, get their vehicle inspected in September or October, and then it'll be the following year, so they can still accomplish going to Florida without the stickers. In terms of consumer protection, even with our current sticker programs, these civil suits are going to happen. It just happened to me recently. I won't mention any names. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But the reason this bill was put forward, because as the Deputy Speaker mentioned before, I've been on transportation for 10 years as well. And I firmly believe in the inspection program. I don't want to see it disappear. And I have probably defended the program that we have 25 times as a guess. But at some point, even though we keep winning the battles, I'm afraid we're going to lose the war. This is just a way, and one of the ways that we're looking at to try to make people hate the program less. And as you know, a lot of people hate it. Sooner or later, we're going to lose this. So this was Deputy Smith's attempt at relieving and separating the financial events, which can be costly with used vehicles, with registration town fees, plus the repairs. And over the summer months, we're also going to be looking at the reasons for failure, because I got a slew of emails. There are things that are failing vehicles right now that arguably shouldn't have. And we're also going to be looking at the predatory shops as well, and maybe putting some teeth into the statutes about what happens if you're a licensed inspection station, and actually, do something or not, and to sell things to people that they don't need. So again, this is just one of the three-prong approach to try to save the program in the long run. I guess that's all I need to say. Thank you very much.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, Representative. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on 1474 that has not had the opportunity? With that, I will close the hearing and give Peter a few minutes to regroup and start the hearing on 1000.
I have to go, but I separate minutes. Introduce the bill, just so you know. I have to introduce the bill
Oh,
in
yeah.
a little while, so I have to go.
I know. He's not a happy. I will open the hearing on House Bill 1000 prohibiting motorcycle profiling and bring down the prime sponsor, Representative Stephen Smith. Welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to be back. I remain Representative Stephen Smith from Sullivan 11. This bill also comes to you from the House consent calendar after a unanimous committee vote. It's a very simple bill that profiling based on your appearance shouldn't be a reason to get stopped, searched, or treated differently than other people. I don't know what you see when you look at folks wearing motorcycle-related paraphernalia, an awkward term, but I don't know, what I see are lawyers, doctors, engineers, more than a couple of state representatives, the Speaker of the House. They're just people. You are used to seeing me like this. If you saw me in clothes I'm comfortable with, in my natural environment, you may have a different opinion of me. Or maybe some of you wouldn't, but either way. And you know, that's just human nature, and you can't legislate it out of existence, but what we can legislate is what we do about it, right? So I should not be penalized for the time the director of motor vehicle was shocked to find me in Concord DMV wearing cowboy boots and a Batman sweatshirt with the sleeves cut off. It doesn't change who I am, but it sure changes what you might think about me. So nobody should be penalized for that. And that's really the only point of this bill. How often does it happen? You know what? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's never happened, because it's wrong, and I'm here to ask you to join the House in saying that it's wrong, and it shouldn't ever happen. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none?
Oh, dear. Well, there's some extra for the next people.
And the Speaker? Mr. Speaker, come on down. Welcome.
There we go. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. This is something that's, pretty dear to me. I've been involved in riding a motorcycle for probably about 55 years now. And on occasions, I have been what I believe to be profiled and discriminated against. Having said that, as Representative Smith said, is this a common practice in New Hampshire? No. Is there a law enforcement agency in the state that I believe in any way would condone profiling? No, I do not believe that. But the fact of the matter is, it does occur on occasions. So this bill would simply say that it can occur. 4 other states have adopted this, and you will hear in future testimony that they're even working on, I believe it's a House resolution down in Washington, D.C., that is bipartisanly supported. And our 2 congressional members both support it. So this is not a partisan thing. This is a bipartisan agenda in the 4 states that have passed it. Are 2 are democratically controlled and 2 are Republican controlled. So this is something that we believe that it's time, and we ask you to support it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Any questions? Seeing none?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Tracy Bulravage? How much did I butcher it?
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. You did a good job, Senator Birdsall, on that name. Tracy Bulravage, it's hard. I am Tracy Bulravage. I'm the president of New Hampshire Motorcycle Rights Organization. So I am obviously here in support of this bill. I'm a biker. I'm also an entrepreneur. I own several businesses. I'm a board member of Veterans Count that raises money for veterans. I'm a mom. And I'm a proud grandma of 3 little girls who want to ride motorcycles. Yay, me. I love black. I love gothic things. I ride a bike. I wear a vest. I'd like to just turn around for 1 second, let you see what I wear on my vest.
It's good, it has sparkle.
Yes.
I do like the glam, yes. I have been profiled for this vest on my motorcycle. What I have on, a lot of riders wear. Very different types of them, types of vest. Motorcycles are routinely stopped because of what we wear, but a lot of times it's just because we ride motorcycles. Currently, there are 4 states that have enacted motorcycle profiling legislation: Idaho, Louisiana, Maryland, and Washington. I just came back from Illinois. There are many, many states right now that are working in their own areas that are going to be enacting profiling legislation. I'd also like to point out, just because I think it sets a little bit of precedence, and back in 2011, New Hampshire enacted HB 148, which prohibited the acceptance of federal funding for motorcycle-only roadside checkpoints here in the Granite State. I'd like to quote Representative John Thull, who wrote in February 11, 2011 House Transportation Committee report. He said, "This bill states that no entity in the state of New Hampshire accepts federal funding solely for the purpose of setting up motorcycle-only roadside checkpoints. This would be a clear example of discrimination against one group of citizens just because of what type of vehicle they use for their means of transportation." So already in 2011, we were being kind of singled out, and the House Transportation and the Senate knew this. 2018, New Hampshire took one step further by enacting SB 516, which simply prohibits any law enforcement officer or agency from establishing or conducting motorcycle-only checkpoints. Peter Terosian's House Transportation Committee report of April 4th of 2018 said, "This bill is to ensure that motorcycles and their riders are not singled out unfairly from other motorists and forced into roadside checkpoints for inspections when law enforcement does not otherwise have probable cause for traffic stop." So as you can see, our legislative body has heard the concerns of New Hampshire motorcycles in the past, both in 2011 and 2018, and they agreed that these actions were discriminatory and a type of profiling. In 2018, the U.S. Senate Resolution 154, a resolution that was promoting awareness of motorcycle profiling and engaged in collaboration and communication with the motorcycle community and law enforcement, was passed in unanimous consent. Currently, the U.S. Congress session, House Resolution 366, also promoting awareness of motorcycle profiling, as of this weekend now has 88 co-sponsors, including New Hampshire's Chris Pappas and Ann Custer, both of people that I have reached out and they have signed on as co-sponsors. As all of you probably know or maybe are not aware of, we have a long history of motorcyclists in the state. We have the first original rally that's held here in Laconia. So it's the oldest rally in the country. People come from all over the world to ride in our state and to come to this rally. NHMRO, along with the Office of Highway Safety, the State Police, the New Hampshire Riders Education Program, New Hampshire Automobile Dealers Association, iHeartMedia, AAA of New England, and the Liquor Commission started the Motorcycle Task Force, something we've never had here in the state. And we did this to start looking at motorcycle issues and concerns, and this is one of them. And it's a great start for us. But unfortunately, as a motorcycling community, we are still being discriminated against because of how we look, tattoos, the way we ride, what we ride, long beards. And I think a lot of it is people fear what they do not understand. They fear bikers because they don't know how to make how we look. I can tell you that this morning, or not this morning, today, this afternoon, standing with these gentlemen right here behind me, awesome friends of mine. One of them was an engineer, one was a business owner. We were looked at differently, just standing over at the LOB. That's wrong. Steve and I, my husband, have pulled up places on our motorcycles, and we've been looked at wrongly. We've passed police officers in, well, where I live in Bedford, New Hampshire, and they will turn around and follow us. That's wrong. This needs to stop. So I'm asking you to please pass HB 1000 and help New Hampshire be the 5th state, because it's coming, and we would like to help us be in the forefront of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will take any questions that you have.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gregory Hildreth.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Trooper. Right now, the Department of Safety neither opposes nor supports this bill. We're just here to offer educational testimony. Specifically, the fact is, the issue with this comes down to bias policing, and we do not engage in nor do we condone profiling. In fact, we have a policy specifically against that. Any type of profiling, whether it's race, gender, looks, motorcycle, anything, it's covered in our policy in New Hampshire under state police, and there is disciplinary action that can be taken against that, up to and including termination. There are currently mechanisms in place if this does happen, specifically complaints to the Attorney General's office, complaints to the department regarding our Internal Affairs Department. The concern we only have with this bill right now is, just like we don't have a bill right now that profiles our ability to stop red cars, but the common saying is a red car gets pulled over more frequently. There's no law that requires to make sure that doesn't happen, because that doesn't happen. In this case, when we're only time we can actually initiate a motor vehicle stop, it's not the level of probable cause, it's actually articulable suspicion. It's a lower threshold, but it is something where you need to actually argue and have a reason to stop that vehicle. You have to say that it actually committed a motor vehicle violation, is a defective equipment, it engaged in possible criminal activity that's articulable and can be explained. That's the only type of thing that can be allowed. You cannot, on a sole basis, just look at a motorcycle and pull it over. It's illegal. And there are mechanisms in place currently to take care of that. One issue that I was mentioning before that we do have a concern with this law passing, we have a system called BOLO to be on the lookout. Basically, if there's a report of a bank robbery and the description given is a motorcyclist wearing black jeans and a black leather and a blue helmet, if that vehicle were to drive by, and is that articulable suspicion now to stop it, or does this bill now put law enforcement making it a legal traffic stop simply to stop that vehicle and ascertain if this individual is involved? Legislation like this, again, we're not supporting it, we don't oppose it. Is there a need for it? That's the only thing. And after that, I just have questions.
Thank you. Trooper, any questions from the committee? Seeing none?
Thank you.
John Eddington? Welcome.
Sorry, I'm not used to this.
Neither are we.
I have some stuff here for you, if I could give it to you. My name is John Eddington. I'm president and founder of Granite State Brotherhood Motorcycle Club in New Hampshire. I also represent the National Council of Clubs throughout the country. I've got some stuff here I'd like to read if I could.
Sure.
Motorcycle profiling is a national discussion. In 2011, Washington State unanimously passed a law addressing motorcycle profiling in America. Maryland, 2016, Louisiana, 2019, Idaho in 2020. In 2018, the U.S. Senate unanimously approved Senate Resolution 154 condemning motorcycle profiling and encouraging all states to address the problem. National Council of Clubs in 2016, we started doing a survey on motorcycle profiling. I have New Hampshire's survey here. I gave you guys some copies of it. There's 5 questions on the survey. Question 1 is, what state or U.S. territory do you live in? Question 2 is zip code. What zip code are you located in? Question 3, are you a member of a motorcycle club organization that requires you to wear any identifying logo? It was 163 people took the survey. It was online. Question 4, should there be a state or federal law addressing the issue of motorcycle profiling and discrimination directed towards motorcyclists? 161 people took the survey. 131 people said yes, and 20 people said no. Question 5, have you been convicted of a felony in the past 8 years? We put this in because there's a lot of different stipulations with motorcyclists and clubs and everything. 163 people took this. 3 people said yes. 160 people said no. That's pretty much all I got. I would appreciate it if you'd stand with us with this bill. I think it's a great thing. And thank you. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Walsh?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
I just have a copy of my testimony.
Welcome, Chief.
For you, Senator. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Burstill and Senate members. My name is Kevin Walsh. I'm the police chief for the town of Ryan, New Hampshire. First of all, I would like to thank the committee for their commitment to the New Hampshire people, the time away from your family, and the sacrifices that you make since you've been elected to office. Thank you. I testify before you in opposition of HB 1000. 2 primary reasons. The first, the legislation isn't necessary, and the second, the effects it will have, the legislation will have on law enforcement. HB 1000 is written, an act prohibiting motorcycle profiling. The bill is not necessary because there is no evidence before you to say that that is actually existing. In my 34 years as a police officer, I maintain with my experience that there are no concerns about motorcycle profiling. The bill purports to fix something that doesn't exist. Under the proposed bill, they are asking to be provided with a special protection, much like other protected classes. They already exist for all citizens, including motorcyclists, that can be found in the U.S. Constitution. It is not necessary to provide motorcyclists with this type of special protected class that they seek inside their bill. I can assure you that all police officers are continuously trained and educated on implicit bias through standard operating procedures. Department training policies and annual reviews, and that's important for the committee to understand. All departments are doing annual reviews on implicit bias, and asserts that the officers continue to match the expectations of the citizens that we serve. New Hampshire statistics do not support the law prohibiting motorcycle profiling. I ask you, why is the law being created for something to be prohibited when the statistics don't exist? Driving a motorcycle and wearing motorcycle paraphernalia is not cause for an officer to stop a motor vehicle. The officers are trained in that, they know that. In my 15 years as the police chief in the town of Rye, I have never received a complaint from a motorcyclist that said they were stopped for wearing motorcycle paraphernalia. The claim that you have heard from supporters of HB 1000 are unsupported by any facts or data. Creating unnecessary laws like this one does not improve public, police, and citizen relationships. It divides us. And most of all, it doesn't make New Hampshire safer. For these reasons, I respectfully ask that you find this bill inexpedient to legislate. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? Senator Sherman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief. Just a question. What is the procedure if someone did bring a complaint against a police officer for profiling?
As I heard my fellow officer testify from the New Hampshire State Police, that there is an internal policy and procedure done. It's in place. There's a specific officer usually, or as in New Hampshire State Police, they're much larger, a division that's in charge of internal investigations, which are taken upon and taken a review and looked at. There's also the New Hampshire Attorney General's office and the County Attorney's office where people can file a complaint if they feel that the investigation done is not just. Has Rye ever been faced with that? We have. And they weren't satisfied with the investigation internally, and they went to the county attorney in the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. They have divisions, and they came in and we opened our records to them and they took a review.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chief. That is all I have for those that wish to speak. Is there anyone here that has not had an opportunity to speak on 1000 but would like to? We will not be executing this today, just an FYI. All right, with that, I will close the hearing on House Bill 1000. Thank you.
just say, we're not gonna accept the last bill.
I formally end the hearing on House Bill 1000.